with his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning. It's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
Now, what did the prof say in his feedback? This is most eliminating.
Please note that I'm not deducting points because you have certain beliefs, but instead I am deducting
Yeah, hold on to that thought.
But instead I am deducting point,
Okay,
for you posting a reaction paper that does not answer the questions for this assignment.
I didn't see any questions in the prompt. What questions?
Contradicts itself.
Yeah, but only in minor ways. Certainly nothing that would evaporate its worth.
Heavily uses personal ideology over empirical evidence in a scientific class and is at times offensive.
So what was this about not deducting points for her having certain beliefs? This prof makes a big deal about being scientific, but demanding that someone not express opinions because they might hurt certain people's feelings is not scientific. What this prof is using is called an appeal to emotion. You are wrong because what you wrote hurts my feelings.
While you're entitled to your own personal beliefs, there is an appropriate time or place to implement them in your reflections.
No. You asked for reactions, you got them. If she feels a certain way about a topic and you ask her for her reactions to that topic, then too bad if she expresses ideas that you don't like. Some have said that the prof didn't really downgrade her for making statements he found offensive. Yeah, he did. Otherwise, why would he mention it here?
I encourage all students to question or challenge the course material with other empirical findings or testable hypotheses, but using your own personal beliefs to argue against the findings of not only this article, but the findings of countless articles across psychology, biology, sociology, etc. is not best practice.
You know what else is not best practice? Assigning dumb reaction papers with poor guidelines, then giving out zeros to those who misunderstand the assignment.
You argue that abiding by normative gender roles is beneficial. It is perfectly fine to believe this. But then to say that everyone should act the same while also saying that people aren't pressured into gendered expectations is contradictory, especially since your arguments reflect a religious pressure to act in gender stereotypical ways.
How do you know that her arguments reflect religious pressure? She never made such a claim. She is, in fact, stating the opposite, that her belief comes naturally because God intended it that way. Please don't tell me that you are simply asserting your own belief system, which is based on nothing more than what you think, to explain why you're downgrading her own belief system.
You can say that strict gender norms don't create gender stereotypes, but that isn't true by definition of what a stereotype is.
I would like to see the definition of stereotype that you're using. Oh wait, substantiation of claims is for the other guys.
Please note that acknowledging gender stereotypes does not immediately denote a negative connotation, a nuance this article discusses.
According to whom? I mean, is the author of that article the know-all, be-all of everything? Who decides whether it's a negative connotation or not?
Additionally, to call an entire group of people demonic is highly offensive, especially a minoritized population.
At this point, the prof is suffering from a reading comprehension problem. She never said anything of the sort. Here is what she said.
My prayer for the world, and specifically for American society and youth, is that they would not believe the lies being spread from Satan that makes them believe they are better off as another gender than what God made them.
A person can say that divorce is the work of Satan and not consider divorcees as satanic. The same goes for any vice, drug habits, criminal behavior, prostitution. You can fall victim to Satan's clutches, but that doesn't make you an agent of Satan. After all, you haven't sworn an allegiance to Satan. Using the Prof's logic, all of us are satanic because we've all sinned in some way or another. But no minister I know would make such a claim. Remember, this Prof is assuming the role of grader, but cannot seem to understand a student's writing, even though the writing is crystal clear.
You're entitled to your own beliefs, but this isn't a vague narrative of society pushes lies, but instead the result of countless years of developing psychological and scientific evidence for these claims and interacting with the communities involved. You may personally disagree, but that doesn't change the fact that every major psychological, medical, pediatric, and psychiatric association in the United States acknowledges that biologically and psychologically, sex and gender is neither binary or fixed.
This is a blatant appeal to authority. It matters not what these associations think. Remember, at one time, the APA considered homosexuality a mental disorder. What's the point of writing a reaction paper if you're going to approach the issue with such an authoritarian view? I want you to tell me what you think, as long as it aligns to what the APA thinks, because whatever the APA thinks must be true.
I implore you, apply some more perspective and empathy in your work.
Empathy should not play any role in the scoring of her essay. She is under no obligation to conform the contents of her reaction paper to your feelings.
If you personally disagree with the findings, then by all means share your criticisms, but make sure to do so in a way that is appropriate and using the methodology of empirical psychology as aligned with the learning goals in this class.
Okay. Whatever.
If you have any additional questions or concerns about this or would like some additional educational resources, I would be happy to discuss this further and provide you with those.
How much do you want to bet that these educational resources are slanted toward a certain societal view on transgenderism? How many of you think that this Prof is going to go out of his way to introduce anything that contradicts his political stance? As I said before, the student's essay was deserving of maybe 15 out of 25, not a 0. The only thing that deserved a 0 was the assignment. Okay, so this professor gave the assignment to another professor who identifies with she, her, and hers and asked to get confirmation of the grade. Yeah, I bet this was really fair.